Today we'll be comparing data displayed in dot plots. A dot plot is a graphical display of data using dots on a number line. Each individual dot on the dot plot represents a single piece of data in a list. In example 1, it says that in the 12th century, King Henry I of England stated that a yard was the distance from his nose to the thumb on his outstretched arm. The dot plot shows the different lengths in inches of the yards for students in the 7th grade class. Our first question is asking how we would describe the shape of the dot plot. Looking at the data displayed on the number line, it appears that the dots are fairly evenly spread out, with most of the dots clustered around the middle. Therefore, choice C would be the best choice to describe the shape of our dot plot. Our second question is asking which single dot best represents the data. As we mentioned above, most of the dots appear in the middle. Looking at our four choices, 31 inches is the one that seems to appear in the middle. If you look closely at the data, you can also see that 31 inches is the number with the most dots. And so for this reason, choice B, 31 inches, is going to be the single dot that best represents the data. In question number 3, we're being asked to find the center of the dot plot. Remember that the center is also called the median. Count up the number of dots that you see on the number line. You should see that there's an odd number of dots, meaning that there should only be one in the middle. It might be helpful for some of you to actually create a list of the data using the dots on the dot plot. Take a moment if you would like to make your list right now, or see if you can figure out what the middle of the dot plot is going to be. The center of the dot plot in this example is going to be 31.5 inches. Our fourth question is asking us to fill in some blanks. The data values start at blank inches and end at blank inches. Here we're looking for the minimum and the maximum values. We can see that the data values start at 28 inches and they end at 35 inches. Most of the data is between blank inches and blank inches. If you ignore the minimum and the maximum, it appears that most of the data is between 29 inches and 34 inches. As we can see up here in the dot plot, 29 inches to 34 inches is where most of the data appears. 28 and 35, the minimum and the maximum, do or do not look like outliers. Remember that an outlier is a piece of data that is significantly different than most of the rest of the data. In this case, 28 and 35 seem relatively close, and so we would say that they do not look like outliers. In question number 5, they're asking you to calculate the mean, the median, and the range. Well, the median we had already done earlier in question number 3, where we found the center. The median, as we stated before, was going to be at 31.5 inches. The range is also going to be easy for us to calculate, remembering that we do high minus low, maximum minus minimum. In this case, we're going to do 35, the maximum, minus 28, which is the minimum, giving us a range of 7 inches. In order to calculate the mean, remember that we're finding the average. This is going to require us to add up every single piece of data that we have in the list first. Take a moment right now and add up all 21 pieces of data that appear in that list. Your sum should be 664.5. Now we need to take that number and divide by 21 in order to find our average. And doing that, we end up with a mean of 31 and 64.285714 inches. Our second example shows two dot plots. The dot plots show the height of 15 high school softball players and the heights of 15 high school basketball players. In the first example, you will be comparing the shapes of the dot plots. In the second question, you'll be comparing the center of the dot plots. And in the third question, you'll be comparing the spreads or the ranges of the dot plots. In the third example, the dot plots show the number of hours a class of students exercises each week and the number of hours the same class plays video games each week. In the first example, we're being asked to compare the shapes of the dot plots. All right, in the first question, it says most students exercise less than blank hours each week, with outliers at blank. Well, taking a look at the exercise data, it appears that most students exercise less than 4 hours. All right, as shown right, the majority is clustered here on the left side, less than 4 hours, and it appears that there are outliers found right here at 12 hours. For the video games, it says that most students play video games blank hours or more each week. And looking at the dots that we see in this dot plot here, it appears that most students play for 6 hours or more each week. There is an outlier in this dot plot as well, as we can see down here at 0, there is one student that doesn't play video games at all. This is going to be an outlier for that dot plot. In the second example, we're going to find the medians for each dot plot. Again, it might be helpful for you to make a list of all the numbers that are represented for each of the dot plots shown above. All right, let's make our list. For exercise, we have 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 5, 7, 7, 12, and 12. And for video games, we have 0, 6, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12, and 14. Remember that the median is going to be the middle, and in each case here, we have an even number of data, which is going to mean that there are going to be two numbers that appear in the middle. For the exercise, the two numbers that appear in the middle are the last two and the first three. This is going to require us to average these two numbers. So we're going to have to figure out 2 plus 3 and divide that answer by 2. 2 plus 3 makes 5, and if we divide that by 2, we end up with a median of 2.5 hours. For video games, the two numbers that appear in the middle are the two 9s. Averaging 9 and 9 is going to give you 9 again, and so for this, the median is going to end up being 9 hours. In question number 3, they want us to compare the spreads of the dot plots by calculating the range. For exercise, the maximum is going to be at 12 hours, and the minimum is at 0 hours, giving us a range of 12 hours. For video games, the maximum is at 14 hours, with a minimum of 0 hours, giving us a range of 14 hours. Okay, in the box we have a couple of blanks to fill in. The blanks allow you to compare the centers. Well, the center again is called the median, so we can say here that the medians allow you to compare the centers, while the blanks allow you to compare the spreads. The spreads again is when you're finding the range, and so we can say that the ranges allow you to compare the spreads.